Hi everybody. I'm here today with a quick tip about how you can emboss using any color of ink that you have and not worry about having colored embossing powder. The stamp set I'm using today is Lovely Amazing You from Stampin' Up. It's a very cute little photopolymer set that just came out. And I'm going to use this big envelope, well, it's not that big, I don't know what I'm saying, this envelope stamp. And I know you're already thinking I'm crazy because that's a solid stamp and that can be hard to emboss, but just wait. Now Jennifer McGuire sent me this little grid, little piece of acetate to use to line up my stamps, and it is a miracle. I love it so much. It's the size of a card front, and so I can exactly center something on my card front or get my greeting straight, but you'll notice I did put it upside down. You have to put the business end of this stamp down on the acetate because you're picking up the back with the Lydia Misty. So I'm just going to position this so it's along that center line. And then pick up my stamp, and now I know it's in the right place. And you can see a little beast walking by. Happens. Hazards of crafting with pets. So now I can remove the acetate, and I'm just going to make sure that my cardstock is snug in the corner. And here comes Maddie for her cameo. That's how she is. Sorry about that. I could edit it out, but who could edit out Maddie? So now the color I'm going to use today is Melon Mambo. I do not have any Melon Mambo embossing powder, so how am I going to do this? Just with a dye ink? I bet you're on the edge of your seat. I'm just going to ink up this stamp. And this can be a little bit tricky with photopolymer solid stamps. I know I've struggled sometimes getting a good solid image, but that is also not a problem anymore. So I'll put the envelope down and get a good squish on it. And then when I peel the cardstock off, you'll see there's some little voids, just like what you would expect. Now normally you'd get mad and throw this in the trash, or I would, but I don't have to because I can just overstamp it, which is what I'm going to do. Make sure you clean your ink off the lid. And I can actually just stamp this as many times as I want until I get an absolutely perfect impression, instead of throwing 6 attempts into the garbage or, restamping by hand with the clear block, which never works. So there you go. Just stamp it up till it's perfect. Look how beautiful it is. I also like that you can make kind of a darker shade of ink with this multiple stamping. But now that I have my envelope perfect, I'm going to emboss it. So you know that I can stamp in the same place, right? So you probably know where I'm going here. But I have to get my stamp good and clean. And if I apply the stamp cleaner on the baby wipe, like I showed you in another video, I can get this stamp perfectly clean. And then that way not have that nightmare Versamark pad that we're all terrified of. It's just covered with ink. I like my Versamark pad to stay pretty pristine. See how nice and shiny and clean that is? So now you're probably oohing and eyeing because you know where I'm going here. I'm just going to Versamark this sucker and get that clear watermark ink down onto the envelope in exactly the right place. It's so nice not to have to worry if something's going to be off a little bit. It just makes it easy to do so many different techniques. So you can see it's shiny. And I'll put a link to my blog on how I store my embossing powders. This is also a tip from Jennifer McGuire, in these great little containers that I can just clip a spoon to the lid. But I do not want to get clear embossing powder all into my Misty. That would make me cry. So I'm doing this over my desk instead of over my Misty. And then I'm just going to heat set it. And actually, I can even use the magnet just to hold it down. I wouldn't get the heat gun too close to your foam or to your Misty. You don't want to warp it. But I embossed. And I love that magical transformation that happens with heat embossing. It's just something else. But now I'm excited because I'm not limited in color to just the embossing powders that I have. I can emboss in any color just by over stamping with Versamark. But another challenge that I find with heat embossing, and you can see a little bit in my image here, is that sort of pitting that you get when you emboss with just one layer of embossing powder, especially with clear. You know, every little imperfection in the surface of clear embossing kind of bothers me. So I figured out that I can just do the same thing with my Misty, just keep stamping it with Versamark and embossing until I basically have the effect of ultra thick embossing powder, where it really is completely smooth and looks like glass and gives me that perfection that I'm always looking for in a good shiny raised image. So I hope you enjoyed that tip. Have fun stamping.